seal coated.
Okay. And, so I know you touched on grass, sorry.
What would cause Guth to be that high?
Guth also has that stamped asphalt paving out front,
Okay.
Sidewalk paving.
Yep.
which is, not only is it not holding up well, it's a maintenance issue for snow clearing. That patterned asphalt is hard to get a shovel or a snow blower over, so that is wrapped into, it's not just paving, it's also the sidewalks.
Sidewalks, and it's a pretty large area. We just did the same thing in South. There was a little bit of that paving pattern, asphalt. at Sellersville, and that was removed, going to go back to concrete.
I just,
Great idea in the 80s.
I remember when Goose was replaced and they put the patio in,
Yeah,
or the garden in, because I was there
you
then.
were there though.
I remember that, 'cause it was my
Did you walk to school?
I did.
I guess so.
So, yeah, I was just
Can you
wondering
put your
about
mic
those.
on, please?
I was just wondering about what made those two, I mean, almost 10 times more and 10 times more than both of those. Okay.
So so you understand, what we'll do is, when these are approved,
Mhm.
we'll actually go out and we're going to do actual takeoffs and some core samples of these areas, because I don't want to be surprised any more than you do on bid day that, hey, we found out with the samples that it's all unsuitable, and we have to get all of it. We put in a guesstimate of, we'll do 100 square yards or so of removal, full depth. The rest of it will be over mill and overlay. But when it's approved as an actual project, we go back with the wheel, with our survey tools, and we figure out everything that we need to do. If our budget varies greatly from what's on here, we come back to you and say, here's what we found out from our survey. You may want to, maybe we only do the replacement, maybe we do the overlay another time, depending what it does to our estimate. We don't, everything is we get approval for all that. I'm not going to list it on here as 200,000, and on bid day it comes in at 750. I have to explain to you why it's 750. So I will bring it back to you. Whenever we have any kind of a variation in that, we come back to the board and we say, hey, we found a box turtle or an arrowhead, and there's another department involved, and it's happened. So, but again, this is basicly from a visual survey. We didn't do any testing to do this, but we will.
Plus, we always do a lot of alternates,
Right.
and it worked out really well for us this year. We've got a lot more sidewalk and a lot more paving done this year because the pricing came in so good. We were able to take alternate 1, 2, 3, and 4, both at Sellersville South and the high school. Yeah,
Well,
for money that was approved.
when you go out.
Can you put your microphone on, please?
When you go out to do those, I would love to join you to take a look at all that paving. Thank you. And this might be a dumb question, but I don't know what an electrical switchgear is.
Electrical switchgear is, it'll come off the pole into the building at like a 480 volt service. Something has to transform that down to usable voltage within the building, whether it's 277 for parking lot lighting or a regular 120 in a classroom. So it is the actual gear. It's like a transformer. It takes it from the high voltage to the lower voltage so that it can be distributed through the building.
So that's
When-
the transformer, that's the transformer that does that. The switchgear is really the big switch that'll turn off all power in the school.
Okay.
One switch, all power in the school.
I just didn't know.
So there's a breaker.
That's kind of what I thought
Yeah.
it was, but.
So when the switch gears go bad, or get old, they tend to not to work proper. You're supposed to exercise them every once in a while, and it gets to the point, pardon me?
That's probably why it's a 7.
That's the way that's
Can
why
you
it's
put your
set.
mic on?
The problem with that is if that goes, we don't have a generator big enough to run the whole building. It's minimal system, so yeah.
Oh, no, I understand, and now that I know what it is, gotcha. I just didn't know what an electrical switchgear was, or, Thank you. Any other questions, comments from board members? Everybody?
I just want to thank everyone for the hard work on this. I think this is a great plan. I think it puts us in good shape to really see where we're going to fall and be able to predict other things, other major financial decisions that we need to make. So I really appreciate all the effort in this. And if we didn't have the great big book, this would have been a much more difficult process. So thank you for that too.
You're very welcome.
Okay, next on our agenda is, our next facilities meeting is scheduled for September 11th, 2018, here in our LGI room. Number 6 is public comment. Yes, ma'am.
Sue Furlong, Rockdale Township. A few years back, we did some water abatement problems behind the high school. Remember the gym had mold in it and all that? How's that holding up? I'm just curious with all this rain.
Great.
Okay, I just wondered
It
because,
was a bad area.
yeah, I remember it was really bad, and I thought if it's being tested, it's being tested right now. Good, all right. If I took the $1 million divided by 7 elementary schools, I get about $143,000 per school for air conditioning each school, large space only. I don't know if that sounds reasonable or not. I'm sure it varies school by school. That's what I'm going to hear. But anyway, I hope that's a reasonable number. Sounds high to me, but I don't. That's just because everything sounds high to me. That's a fact. Okay. The thing that bothers me, though, that I am serious about is not one person here mentioned the building utilization study. We've already lost over 200 elementary school students in the last 4 years. We are projected to lose another 500 in the next 5 years and another full 1,000 students in the next 10 years. Most of them in the elementary, and then it moves on up a little bit into the middle school. And the recommendation in that study, which would save the taxpayer $2 to $3 million, was to improve your efficiency in the use of your existing buildings, maybe make a few modifications, and that we would have one excess elementary school probably within, I'm going to say, 3 to 4 years of that study. When I look at the numbers, and what that study did not do was improve the efficiency, which is the number of students per square feet. And I have made phone calls to the state, to the architects down there, and we are not efficiently using our buildings right now. And as we lose more students, we become less efficient. So it bothers me that I'm looking at a long-term plan and nobody's talking about 500 fewer elementary school students, 1,000 fewer elementary school students, because that's important. And you need to pick out a building and say, perhaps this building can be either repurposed, leased out until population trends change, or sold. We are going to be with excess building space, and none of you all seem to be aware of that or addressing it. And as a taxpayer, I don't want to pay the overhead in terms of administration and teachers for, classrooms that should be in other buildings. And I don't want to pay for building maintenance. You guys need to come up and address this. It's a tough topic, I understand that. It's redistricting and all that. And it even affects your transportation department. You're talking about more buses? No, if you have fewer buildings to get to and from, you don't need more buses. So this is a very costly potentially very costly scenario where you are operating one building more than necessary in the near-term future, which is what I call 3 to 4 years. And none of you are looking at that. And I'm going to stay on it, because it's worth $2 to $3 million a year between maintenance and personnel.
Do you mind if I come back? Nope, go ahead.
Actually, that was a big topic of conversation in our committee. We did actually discuss that, and so that is something that we've been thinking about. I think we do have some new board members who aren't aware of the building utilization, the details yet. They haven't been able to, they haven't had access to that, and they haven't had the discussion. So we are talking about having a meeting in the future. I don't want to commit to a month and then that doesn't happen, but we are planning to have that discussion and let everyone know what those timelines are, get a feel from the board of what their thoughts are. That being said, air conditioning isn't going in the next month, 2 months. So, you know, that's something that can be taken into account. But another thing that we didn't talk about, but something that should be mentioned, is by the numbers dropping and the extra classrooms being available, those are now turning into our STEM rooms and world language rooms, and so those spaces weren't taken into account at that point in time either, so that's another thing that's going to have to be weighed into all of that discussion. So it is an important discussion, and the whole board needs to talk about all of the details and you know, whether or not there's something that needs to be moved on now, or whether that's something to readdress. I think new numbers are also coming out in the fall, so we're waiting for the new numbers to come in to see, are we in line
Numbers of
with
what?
what the predictions were?
What kind of numbers?
If we're in line with what the predictions were as far as a drop, is it dropping on schedule as to what they predicted it was going to drop on? The only thing that was talked about that would happen now is if we were going to put an addition on one middle school and close a different middle school. So, and I think probably, and I don't know because we have a lot of new board members, but I got the sense from people that people are a little hesitant to commit to putting money into putting an addition on a building based on a prediction, and then you've put all that money into putting an addition on, and then if it doesn't drop to what you're saying, then you're closing a bill. You know, you're making a lot of commitments based on predictions. So that's going to be a future discussion. So I just wanted you to be aware that we are considering all of those things. It wasn't something that is being ignored. So those discussions will happen.
When I go to the school district website, you can't find that report anymore, okay? If you do a search, it's gone. And like you said, you've got new board members, you've got new administration. How are they supposed to read it and come up to speed when it's not even available anymore on the school website? How many of you all have read all, I think it's like 70 some or 60 some pages? How many of you have twiddled around with the math to say, okay, we're operating at this?
Mr. Furlow, I would like to thank you for your public comment tonight, but I want to remind you that we're going to do one public comment. I would be glad to have an interaction with you and have conversations.
I understand that. I understand that, but
so
to hear that the board members can't even get to it is probably news to you. And I bet you haven't seen it.
that's incorrect. We're
Okay, well, good.
questions at the board. All right, thank you.
Is there anything else, Ms. Dahl?
No, if it isn't available, we make it available.
And Mr. Dover just wanted to add that it is available in the library on so you can access it through Word docs.
I can have a copy of it, but if it isn't available to the public, it should be. I have nothing else. If everyone's good, the meeting's adjourned. 9:07.